The board game Talisman from Games Workshop has been around for a long time, and now there's a digital version available on the PlayStation 4. But does this game make you feel like a crowned champion, or is this one adventure that's doomed from the start? If you're unfamiliar with Talisman, pretty much like I was going into this game, it's a board game with 1 to 6 players. When beginning the game, you select which of the playable classes you want to play from. There is a small selection of them for the base game, but this version, the digital edition on PS4, includes all the expansions and all the playable characters. This means there's over 50 possible characters to choose from, all of which will have different stats and usually a unique ability that makes them end up standing out. So it can be a bit overwhelming just to find one that you're going to go with initially. I recommend picking one, playing through a game kind of to learn the rules before you really end up diving into this. Though honestly, it's actually a lot less complicated than I feared it was going to be. The game features a good tutorial that will guide you along the way throughout your initial rolls all the way up until when you complete your initial game. You can leave the tutorials on at all times if you want, or you can turn them off right from the get-go if you want to do so. Also, in things like the options, you can increase the movement of the AI. I recommend keeping it low at first so you can kind of see how the AI characters are taking each of their turns. What things are they deciding to do, what things are they deciding not to do, and once you kind of get the hang of things, you can increase it so turns go by a little bit quicker. The game can be a bit slow, especially if you're only playing with yourself or maybe one other person. While the game's board isn't necessarily super huge by any means, there is a lot going on. Every space will provide you with either drawing a new adventure card or something like the corner spots, which represent the town or the cathedral, and depending upon different things with your characters and what you end up rolling when you make it those spaces, different things will end up occurring. You may make it to the town and you roll a dice in the tavern, you either get drunk and lose some money, or you end up getting into a bar fight, or nothing ends up happening at all. All of your dice rolls will dictate what ends up going on when you land on certain spaces. The normal spaces will involve drawing an adventure card. If you're playing defaultly, there's a good amount of cards, and if you throw in the expansion, you're playing with over 300 possible cards that can end up coming into play. Now this includes items that you will have as equipment, followers that will end up giving you certain advantages, such as allowing you not to get lost in a forest, or being able to cross a different canyon or crevice, or stuff like being able to heal for free at certain locations. You'll also find equipment cards that will give you, of course, increased attack, or stuff that will save you in a battle, such as armor pieces that if you end up losing a fight, you can quickly roll, and if you get a high enough number, you'll end up saving one of your lives. There's also plenty of creatures and monsters to face off with that all have different abilities and different stats. When you're facing off with a creature, you'll either be using your attack stat or your craft stat, which is kind of like a magic stat here. Basically, you will roll, and whoever has the higher dice roll, when all the modifiers and stuff is included, is the winner. If you're facing off against a normal creature, you'll get them as a trophy. You can then trade in trophies after a certain number of turns to increase your attack or your crafting ability. Or if you're facing off against another player character, you can end up taking one of their lives, or you can take one of the items they currently have on them. Your overall goal, though, is to build up your character and work towards the center. The very center spot is kind of the top of this giant tower, and you have to have a talisman in order to enter this spot. Once you're able to do so, every turn you roll a dice, and if the characters are playing that aren't able to match that dice roll, well, they end up losing a life, and if they end up losing all their lives, they're eliminated from the game as long as you're on that spot. Normally, if you run out of lives during the course of normal gameplay, you'll come back the very next turn, but all your stats return to their base stats, and you lose all of your equipment cards. In fact, they get left right where you ended up dying, so somebody else could come along and end up picking them up. Whoever is the first character to make it to the center, and all the other characters are taken care of, then you are declared the winner. Though, there are other modifiers and other gameplay rules that if you want to get a little bit more advanced, you can change this up to make the ending a bit different, and there's actually a lot of stuff selectable here. Like I mentioned, there's the base board, but there's also expansions to the board. If you're playing with certain expansions, you'll add extra areas onto the main game board for you to go into, explore, find new items, and new things will become available because of this. There's also the expansion that includes the Grim Reaper, which basically every turn somebody will get to roll for the Grim Reaper, and if they land on a spot that you're occupying or another character's occupying, that person or yourself will have to roll against the Grim Reaper, costing them potentially lives if they don't do so good. The great thing is you can play this 1 to 6 players on the same system, taking the controller and passing it around, or you can actually jump online as well. Being someone who's unfamiliar with this particular game, I thought it was going to be very complicated, but was surprised to find with the tutorials and just a little bit of practice, I was able to get the hang of it. After losing my first game, I was able to best the AI the second time around, though I'm sure expert players would mop the floor with me. There isn't, unfortunately, any way to modify the AI to make it either easier or harder, but since there are so many possible playable characters involved in the game, each game that I was playing was completely different depending upon what characters were involved with it. From the technical side of things, everything ran smoothly. I didn't run into any major glitching, crashing, or slowdown of any sort. The only real negative with the game for sure, though, is the price point, and that is the fact that it's $29.99 on the PlayStation 4. It does feature a full trophy list, including a platinum trophy, though, if you're going to want to go after it. But honestly, it's really hard to recommend if you're getting it just for yourself. If you have, for sure, friends that you're be able to play online with, it may be worth checking out, or if you're going to have a lot of friends, or you have consistently friends over that may be interested in checking out the game. Overall, though, I had a lot of fun with Talisman. In fact, I really dig the game, and I think it's a really fun board game, and we don't get to see a whole lot of more interesting board games like this available on the PlayStation 4, so it stands out in that regard. But honestly, if you're not going to be playing either with friends locally or online, it's probably not going to be worth giving a look to in its current state. There isn't a whole lot of flashiness to it. The graphics get everything done well, get to see the pieces move around the board, but then for the most part, as far as combat and all the like it's concerned, is just with the cards battling one another. You're not seeing like full 3D battles going on, like something like a classic battle chess or something of that nature. However, though, with all that said, I'm going to be giving Talisman Digital Edition a 7 out of 10. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.